guided spirits to reclaim their home, and even survived a terrifying horror movie. I realized that solo gaming isn't a lesser version of the hobby, it's simply a different way to explore it. That wraps it up for today's episode.
After all the waiting, it was finally time for board game day. But to make the most of that day, I needed to do some extensive research, because every game has its perfect player count. And today, it's 4, and no other game does 4 players better than Black Rose War.
Hey man, it's me. I can't make it tonight. A babysitter canceled, and so I gotta watch. Hey, Jimmy! No, don't put those minutes.
You know what? 4 players is too close to a party game territory anyway. Too many people, too much talking. 3 players is where board gaming truly begins. And I think I know just the game for the 3 amigos. Tricarion is absolute magic at 3 players.
Dearest Mike, I dreadfully regret to inform you that I shan't be making board game night this evening. I have diarrhea.
Screw it, nobody needs a third wheel anyway. I absolutely love 2-player board gaming, and Evergreen is perfect for that strategic 2-player push and pull.
Yo, I know I promised I'd play tonight, but the new season of Free Run just dropped, and as much as I love board gaming, you know my elderly elven waifu comes first. Bye, dude.
Well, I guess I'm playing with myself tonight. But you know what? That's perfect, because I have 5 amazing solo board gamers every solo gamer needs to try at least once. We'll start with some adventure with Arydia, The Paths We Dare Tread, an epic campaign game. Arydia is an open-world campaign game where you'll be exploring across a giant fantasy world filled with epic battles, lots of quests, and cool NPCs to interact with, all to slowly uncover your character's background story in a series of connected, silly adventures. Actually, maybe the best way to describe Arydia is like you're sitting down to play Dungeons & Dragons, but your dungeon master decided to bail at the very last minute, and instead of letting that ruin your night, you decided to just sit down and just play the game anyway. I love role-playing. It makes the world feel far more alive, and that role-playing is facilitated and encouraged in this game, although in a slightly abstracted form. There's even genuine character exploration here, which you almost never see in other board games. Without spoiling anything, you start as a criminal, and you do your best to lead your character down a path toward redemption through the various deeds you'll perform in the game and the interactions you have with other characters in this world. And those interactions, they're really cool and incredibly quirky, as they do their best to emulate the experience you would have had your dungeon master not decided to spend time with his family instead of joining you in a world of whimsy. Listen, James, I don't care if you want to stay home in case your kid says his first word, because you and I both know what that word is going to be. Trader. In Arydia, you read the character's encounter card and choose one of the available dialogue options, sort of like a video game. And hey, if you want that D&D experience, you can just use a funny voice. Just because you're playing alone doesn't mean you can't roleplay the characters and do cool voices. I do it all the time, since nobody is around to judge and laugh at me.
My daddy says they're making a mistake letting people like you in. I hope he's not wrong.
Don't judge me. That said, the experience is more of a family adventure than the edgy story and combat typically found in most campaign games. A lot of encounters are lighthearted or silly, you never really die, and the mechanics are all relatively simple. I'd describe the entire affair as a delightfully charming. Usually when people, myself included, label a game as family-friendly, it's in a derogatory fashion. But here, I really do think this would be a fantastic game to play with people you love. Or, in this case, yourself. It's okay to love yourself. The game just has so much charm and whimsy, and yet it still has enough tactical depth to keep you interested in the entire experience. And I haven't even explained the best part about the game, the exploration. Adventuring and discovering new things is easily the most fun part about this game. In Arydia, whenever you adventure on the campaign map, you get to flip an adventure card, and what's cool about these cards is that the deck can change depending on your actions within the game, making you feel like you have impact on the world you are exploring.
And if that wasn't enough, you get to flip one of these little hexagon thingies on the campaign map and reveal what could be a new landscape to explore, a new town. Yeah, it's a little gimmicky, but it is a ton of fun. The whole package of Arydia is just incredibly fulfilling and teeming with loads of cool little moments that will make you chuckle to yourself as you're playing and exploring. I can't think of a better game that captures adventure and exploration in a solitary package. Now we need to feel some power with Unstoppable, an awesome solo deck builder. At last, we finally have the game that is peak card design. No more Mystic Veil, no more experimentation. This is the game that'll push deck building to the next level by allowing you to not only customize your deck, but the cards themselves. It cannot be overstated how much I love the fact that the card you purchase or draft for the round comes straight to your hand, or how much this is a game changer in terms of deck building. Because not only does the mechanic make you feel, it makes you feel powerful, but it also amplifies the strategy immensely. Because now, on any given turn, it's not just the cards in my hand that I'm choosing between, but the upgrades in the display that are available to me at the same time. You have so much agency on any given turn, truly making you feel. But that strength comes at a cost. Because the more upgrades you get, the stronger the enemy gets, since each card gets flipped and added to the enemy pile that you have to deal with. The game does an absolutely brilliant job of scaling a threat of the game to match the power of the players, and yet still manages to make the player feel like an absolute monster, just comboing and just doing bucket loads of damage. You eye these upgrades with insatiable hunger to get stronger, and because other deck builders have primed you to always just get the best available thing, you end up making a few mistakes. But in time, you become wiser, and you begin to understand that those upgrades are precious resources, only to be attained when you need them the most, and not some default brainless purchase like other deck builders. Because upgrading the enemies, it might not be advantageous, and that necessary restraint only adds to the game's allure, because when you finally do pull the trigger and you grab that upgrade that you've been eyeing for most of the game, it feels really good. And once you get enough damage to destroy one of those threats, well, you get to take it into your hand. So now, not only am I doing the typical thing where I'm deciding what card to play, but I'm also deciding when and what to upgrade and which enemy to kill first in order to get the reward and their card into my hand to help me against other enemies. The game, like I said, the game is just layering decisions over decisions, providing this experience that just has the dopamine receptors just going into overdrive. But it's not just the constant feeling of pleasure the game is providing me. It's the cards themselves. There are enough creative effects and synergies on these cards to keep things interesting. Oftentimes, deck builders have a tendency to have some fairly repetitive and uninspired cards, where sometimes you feel like you're playing the same card with, slight variations over and over again. But here, every card functions differently and provides a new strategy and power and offers a new synergy that works with other cards that I haven't even seen yet. Unstoppable has made playing a deck builder by yourself deeply satisfying. Now, no longer am I cursing my luck of the draw because what goes in my hand is almost entirely of my choosing, whether it's the enemies I kill, the upgrades I purchase, or the card I draft into my hand at the end of the round. And that's the real power progression in this game. It's not just the character getting stronger, it's power being given back to the player by allowing them to make decisions. And for a deck builder, that's a heck of an accomplishment. I think we need to feel some real struggle with Frostpunk, the board game, a painful worker placement game. Okay, all right, hold on, I get it, okay? You're looking at all this crap set up on the table right now and you're thinking to yourself, I don't want to set this all up, especially when I'm only playing by myself. And I get it, okay? I really do, but you just have to give me a few minutes and I'll convince you why all of this is worth it. The beauty of Frostpunk is how perfectly it captures the feeling of survival and struggle. This is everything those big survival video games are trying to be condensed perfectly into a board game. Every death in this game, every moment we are on the brink of starvation, you feel those events, despite the cause of those feelings being nothing more than elaborate pieces of cardboard and wood. The game provides an immeasurable amount of tension as you grapple with moral dilemmas, trying to tightly balance your citizens' happiness with ruthless and necessary survival.
But it's not all doom and gloom, because Frostpunk is unlike other player versus environment games of its class, because you never feel as a player as though you're simply putting out fires and constantly reacting to the world around you. No, here you're being proactive, you're being productive. You're building something, you're passing new laws, researching new tech, constantly expanding and preparing for the inevitable storms that may come tomorrow. The game performs this amazing magic where it simultaneously feels immensely powerful and yet beautifully powerless, because every action in this game has layer upon layer of choices. Take these workers, of which you have 3 types: engineer, citizen, and child. Not only are you determining the necessary action for your turn, but you're deciding which of these unlucky souls will make that trip. And once you've selected your citizen, well, now you have to determine if the action will be heated by this bad boy right here. Do you spend the coal to activate this massive generator, or do you risk your citizen getting sick tonight? And did I mention that you can play cards that augment and enhance these actions? There are layers here. Tons of choices that can feel a little overwhelming sometimes, but also really exciting. The dangers are visible. Yes, the game it's punishing, but in a way that feels fair. When you lose in Frostpunk, it's because you failed, and not because Lady Luck wasn't on your side, which makes those rare victories all the more immensely satisfying. And the story that culminates in that victory, or even that failure, is one that isn't coming through flavor text, although there is certainly some of that. It's emerging from mechanics, researching a new generator upgrade, deciding who freezes tonight, or passing a law to finally make those good-for-nothing kids put their tiny little hands to work. It genuinely feels bad sometimes making some of these decisions, and that's a cool feeling for a board game to instill in its players. Yeah, the setup is a nightmare, the bookkeeping is tedious, and the playtime is insane. But in my opinion, it's all worth it, because you will never find another board game that can come close to accomplishing what Frostpunk pulls off with every single solo play. Let's set sail for some open seas adventure with Nemo's War, a dice-heavy solo exploration game. Nemo's War is exactly what I enjoy from a good solo board game. I want grand overarching goals and a series of unfortunate events that I'll be challenged with tackling every single round to edge closer to victory. And this game provides that experience with the epic immersion of an open seas struggle that feels like it's ripped straight from a Jules Verne novel. Whether your goal is exploration or science or war, your ultimate goal is survival. You must brave the various events tossed your way as you edge closer and closer to achieving greatness. If you gain too much notoriety and are unable to stay under the radar while you randomly go around sinking ships and completing quests, well, you fail. And how is it you complete these quests? Dice rolling. Lots and lots of dice rolling. Now, normally this would frustrate me to no end, but I think what sets this game apart is just how much dice mitigation there is. You are constantly making these push your luck decisions. Do you risk your crew, your hull, or Nemo to push harder for success? What's impressive with all this dice mitigation is just how seamlessly the game blends those dice alterations with the theme of the experience. When you risk your men, mechanically, you're just moving down a track, but it feels like you're a captain rallying his crew for the difficult tasks that lay ahead, leaning into that sense of command and the necessary element of sacrifice that is sometimes required on these epic adventures. If you miscalculate, you will lose those precious resources. But if you bet correctly, you lose nothing. I love this exertion mechanic and the narrative that emerges from that exertion and those dice rolls. They blend smoothly with the story the game is telling, making even failure feel like it's part of the tale, rather than just mechanical punishment. And that looming sense of danger and defeat, it is palpable throughout the entire game, as Nemo's War does a brilliant job of building within its solitary player a sense of wonder and dread. As the deeper you go into your voyage, the more likely you are to encounter some seriously dangerous threats. These ships, who at first seem like harmless vessels, well, they later reveal themselves to potentially be volatile enemies that spell doom for you. How you handle those obstacles to your adventure is entirely of your choosing, and it's that choice that makes this game so damn fun. Because every decision here feels meaningful. Even when you're in desperation mode, you always feel like you have a different path to solve every problem. And in a game with so much dice rolling, this is absolutely essential. I think it's quite the feat to actually make you feel like you're lost and you will lose a lot is entirely one that was within your control, despite some bad dice rolls. The game just seems to have this flow that makes its long sessions engaging, as it perfectly nails the feeling of charting Nemo's strange and obsessive voyage. The theme in Nemo's War, it's so strong that it makes you want to pick up its original source material, cozy up by the fire, and read Jules Verne's work. I mean, not right now. I got a lot of solo board games to get through, and all I can read right now are manuals. But I think that still counts. Okay, it's time for writing and scratching with Tend, a flip and write in a box that is way too big. I am not the typical flip and write fan. In fact, I hate most flip and writes. I find them often to be a little too light and fairly pointless. But Tend, like Hadrian's Wall, it's different. Tend lures you in with this promise of comforting friendship and gardening and tranquil fishing, and then nudges your feet a little closer to the fire by actually providing scoring objectives and the looming endgame evaluation that's ultimately going to reveal the fact that I've been making bad decisions all game. So it's basically just Stardew Valley. I can never please my dead grandpa. In Tend, you collect victory points, whether it's filling out your cargo manifest, completing seasonal objectives, or getting badges. And it's those objectives, be they for the season or the upcoming action cards, that I love the absolute most. Listen, I am all for that sort of like cozy Harvest Moon experience, but I need purpose in the game. And being able to see those bonuses I'll get in the future if I've achieved certain objectives in the game, it sort of just gets me excited and gives me the game a deeper sense of strategy. Now I'm frantically scanning the board to see if I can make the chopping action work to my advantage, to get my axe level higher, or to find a certain amount of wood to build fences to enclose some animals. Everything you do in this game, it feels interconnected, which is a great feeling when it's coming from a game that has the appearance of simply being a slew of minigames. I mean, look at this. When I go to chop wood or mine for ore, I get to scratch this little card and reveal what I find. It feels like when my parents would let me sometimes scratch their lottery tickets until they realized that I was just scratching everything at the same time and making the entire ticket null and void. At the tender age of 5, I was obviously just teaching them that valuable lesson that gambling is wrong. Unless it's gambling in Tend and you're just scratching these little cards, then it's perfectly acceptable. And on that topic of gambling, there is, of course, a lot of randomness in this game. And you have to understand that before you start playing. When you fish, you roll dice. When you chop wood, you scratch a card. But here's the thing. The game provides enough ways to mitigate that randomness that I don't know, I don't really mind. I can upgrade my axe to make sure I perform 2 chops instead of 1, and I can use lures when fishing to sort of widen the area I can pull my fish from. No, it's not a deeply strategic game, but it is a satisfying one that I enjoy playing on my own. Mostly because when I'm alone, nobody can beat me. Now, Tend allows for pretty much infinite player scaling, primarily because, well, there's not much interaction in this game, beyond the neighbor action of providing a resource to the person sitting to your left or sitting to your right. This is pretty common among most simultaneous play games, but my preference will always be solo, because no matter how many strategies I attempt, I never want to be a good neighbor, because I'm not Mr. Rogers, and besides, my neighbors are... Who could that be? There's literally nobody else to cancel for game night. Oh, it's me. Yeah, it's you. And did you forget that we don't have time to play solo board games tonight because we promised that we write a billion thank you letters to all the guests that showed up to the wedding? Oh, but nobody reads those. They just end up in the trash anyway. Yeah, I know, but it doesn't matter. We promised Kim that we'd get it. Is that Tend? You gotta let me in on that. Wait a second, I thought we had to write a bunch of thank you cards. Oh, nobody likes us anyway. That's why everybody canceled tonight.